Why have we come to earth? Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
I have to turn myself on in private. Moving right along. Before I get started on my talk, what I said was thank you very much for that song. And that when they told me they were going to sing I'm Free, I had a different I'm Free song in it. It was on the album Tommy in I think about 1969, and they said that wasn't the song they were going to sing. So anyway, but it's close. Before we get started, I want to actually invite up Tracy Roberti. Tracy is our youth coordinator, our teen coordinator, and just got back from teen camp with 5 wonderful teens, driving 10 hours down.
682 miles.
And yesterday, all that back in a van full of teenagers. And I remember about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a little email saying, only 300 miles to go. So I just want to simply acknowledge you for your work and your support of the teens and making that happen. So thank you. Are any of them here today?
No,
They're probably all sleeping it off, right? Yeah. Right. I would be too if I was a teen. I went last night to a Nourishing Our Community event, and I would prefer to be sleeping that off this morning, right? A couple of us are actually here from that event, so I'm grateful for that. It was a wonderful time. Up to the Rizzi Ranch for a nice Italian dinner, and I told the first service that if my talk might be a little slow this morning, because I was feeling a little slow. So, but I'm feeling better now. I've had a brownie in there, and so I've recovered. So our talk today is on empowering words. Empowering words. Ernest Holmes says the starting point of all creation is the word of spirit. The word is the concept, idea, image, or thought of God. It is the self-knowing mind speaking itself into manifestation. The word back of everything is its initial cause. Emma in our reading says there is something about reasoning about the presence of God and telling of the character of God. That's words. Telling of the character of God. So oftentimes we do this wonderful internal process, but we don't speak it out. We need to tell it out. And that doesn't mean stand on a corner and preach to everybody in the world, but it just means that we need to speak our good. We need to talk about our good instead of just kind of hiding out and holding it within. Okay? And so it's using those words, and what she says out of that is that once we do that, not only does it cure whatever we've aimed our words at, she's talking about how to cure disease here, but it also affects everything else in the patient, as she calls it, in ourselves, in our world. It goes everywhere else and starts to shift the consciousness, starts to move us from whatever we were thinking before to becoming, as Mary emphasized, attentive to divine ideas and entirely change our taste. So as we start to speak, we start to shift our and other people's consciousness. So that's words. Our words create our reality. Our words create our reality. But you say to me, but David, there's certain things I've got in my life, that I didn't speak into my life. I know I didn't speak those words. I have certain things going on in my body, or I have certain things going on in my relationships, or my finances, or my job, and I didn't speak, or my car, and I didn't speak that stuff into reality. Okay? Anybody have that ever? Okay, besides me? Yeah. So how do I create? It is words, but Ernest goes on to say right after that first paragraph that I read, the term thought seems to mean more to us than any other term in this connection. It seems to cover the meaning better, for we know thought is an inner process of consciousness. The thought of God must be the cause of all that really exists. So in Genesis it says that God says, let there be light. But first comes what? The thought. Light. So it's our thinking. It's not what we say, it's what we think. You know, and that's our famous saying of this teaching. Change your thinking, change your life. Change your thinking, change your life. It's my inner dialogue that is creative. It's my inner dialogue. So it's not always the words I'm speaking out. It's not always the nice, pretty thoughts that I hold for 2 minutes in meditation or 5 minutes as I'm writing an affirmation during the day. It's my continuous, ongoing inner dialogue that is creating my reality. That's the good news, bad news, right? So words express our inner dialogue, and they reveal our inner dialogue to us. So if I listen to my words, I will discover what I'm really thinking. I do classes and workshops with people, and when people share, I listen to the words that they're speaking and ask, and so occasionally invite them, is that really what you want to speak out? Is that really what you want? Because oftentimes we kind of just bloop something out, and it's revealing what's really going on in the inner dialogue. And it's hard for us to catch ourselves because we've got this our pattern of being. We know how the world works, right? We all have our own world that we know exactly how to operate within. And it's all different. The person sitting next to you has a different world, by the way. Do you know that? There's not quite an infinite number of worlds, but there's a large number of worlds operating in here. Some of us have multiple worlds going on at the same time, But we all have that. So we don't hear ourselves and our thoughts and our words because they're the ones we're so used to. They're so normal for us. They're so what we're habitually used to. And so that's where I invite people to start working with somebody else. One of my favorite ways is to work with a practitioner. Because practitioners are trained to listen and identify those words that are reflecting the beliefs that we don't necessarily want to keep going with us. Okay? Anybody ever kind of notice that you have a belief or two that you don't want to have and continue on? So one of the great ways to do that is to work with a person who's trained to listen to that and who will gently guide you into the process of what do you really want to express. It's why I work with practitioners. I have my own practitioner. I actually have 2 practitioners that I work with. One is a prayer partner, one is a practitioner. And I encourage people to have and work with a practitioner on an ongoing basis because it's the way to rapidly discover what am I thinking, what am I believing, and how can I start to shift it. And to have somebody who's in your corner, who's loving you and supporting you in that process and helping you up to that. Most of us, we get this John Wayne, I got to do it myself, sort of attitude about spiritual growth. And the truth is, spiritual growth by yourself is a long, painful process. First of all, it's why we're here in community today, right? Yes. It's more fun to do it with other people. You ever sat in a group meditation? It's more fun than an individual meditation, and it's easier to kind of catch that vibe of the group as they go deep. As we did that initial Om, we all got kind of deep together, right? Okay? So when we work with others, when we play with others who are of like mind, who are of conscious, who are opening up to this, we get to grow faster and we get to grow more thoroughly. And so that's why I love working with a practitioner. Is it somebody who's in my corner who reminds me of my truth and catches me when I'm off of it. My practitioner really doesn't have much to catch because I'm almost never off my truth. But no, we have long discussions. Most practitioner sessions last an hour. I remember one time I had Jane Power, who was here a few weeks ago. We had a 3-hour session with me. 3 hours. Just, yeah. Anyways. Work with a practitioner. Another way is to take a class. In the classes and workshops I do, I have exercises that are designed to surface what am I believing? What am I really believing? What is that inner dialogue that's really going on underneath? And sometimes we get into religious science and say, I don't want to talk about that. It's so negative. That's like, okay, you got a computer virus working on your computer, right? And so, do you want to know about it? Or do you want to just let it sit there and not talk about it and let it kind of operate under the surface? It's still operating anyways, right? You might as well bring it up to the surface where you can say, oh, that's the whatever virus, and I need to get some virus removal software or whatever to get that thing out of here. That's why we do that. It's to surface what is it that's really operating and creating underneath the surface. Because that's the part of us that's creating the results we don't want. My favorite dialogue with the universe or with myself is, okay, the universe always says yes, and I just created this mess. What did I ask the universe to say yes to create this mess in my life? Because it's just doing what it does. It doesn't change. It just sits there and says, yes, my beloved. Yes, my beloved. Yes, my beloved. And so if I'm looking at my body, if I'm looking at my diagnosis, if I'm looking at my checking account and it's not where I want it to be, if I'm looking at my, whatever it is and it's not where I want it to be, it's not that the universe sat there and went, let's take that David, let's work him around a little bit and slap him around. He's getting too big for his britches and let's knock him down. It doesn't do that. You know that, right? Okay. It doesn't do that. It just simply says yes. So what am I asking it to say yes to? Another way of listening to that is journaling. Is paying attention to and writing and paying attention, being conscious as you journal. What is it that's really going on in my mind? What is it that's really going on underneath the surface? So words reveal our inner imagery. Our inner imagery. See, the mind thinks in pictures. If I ask you to think about your front door right now, and now if I ask you to think about your car, now if I invite you to envision a dog, imagine a dog, you don't see the word dog, you don't see the word my car or my front door, do you? You see the door, you see the car, you see the picture, you see it as a picture. So before there's ever a word, this is what Ernest Holmes equates image and thought together. Before there's ever a word, there's an image. What are the images that I'm holding in my mind? And do they support me in having the life that I want? Take a breath. What are the images that I accept from my subconscious? And do they support me in having the life I want? So I like to be very careful with images I put in my mind. There's those disaster movies out there, the end of the world sort of things where, I think there's a new one out right now. I can't remember what it is, but I remember a few years ago, there was 2012 when the Mayan calendar was going to come to an end. So they put out a nice disaster movie about on December 25th, everything was going to collapse, and I think there's one about the fault lines and all that stuff. I don't like to watch those movies. I don't want that imagery in my mind. I'm careful about the imagery that I let in. Cynthia knows that whenever even the trailers come on TV, I change channels right away. I don't like to even let that in. What's the imagery that I put into my subconscious? Because we're always in the giving-receiving process in our own minds. We're giving our own mind images to think about, to feed, and we're receiving back from our mind those same images later on, sometimes in sort of shifted form. What is it that I want to give and what is it that I want to receive from my mind in terms of the images? Ernest says that our physical body is like other physical manifestations. The idea of body is an image derived from the fountain of all ideas. See, there's infinite possibilities of body, right? Have you noticed? If you don't know, look around the room. You won't see the infinite number, but you'll see a lot of different versions of body, right? Okay. Guess what? Each of us chose the one we're using, the image we're using, consciously or unconsciously. Breathe. I love Louise Hay's exercise, which is to stand naked in front of a mirror and look at yourself, full-length mirror, and look at yourself and say, I love you. I love you. And just notice where the chatter starts to come up. Yeah, but that elbow, that fat there, that thing there. I don't love that. Can you love all of yourself? The wrinkles, the fat, the Betty Davis knees. Can you love all of that? Yay! And if you're not sure, practice until you get there. It's actually the exercise I gave in the relationship class a couple weeks ago, and a couple people came back a week later and said, it's like, I could do it for about 2 days, and then I just couldn't do it anymore. And it's like, no, keep doing it. Keep doing it until you can just look easily and say, I love you. Every wrinkle, mold, whatever. What are the images that we're carrying? Many of us use imagery as worry. And worry is just simply the negative imagery of what I don't want, what I'm afraid of. And it's creative, right? Imagery is just creative. It just creates. So if I've got worry going, what am I creating? I'm creating what I don't want. So what do I expect? We have this race consciousness of worry. We look at politics and we can get worried about politics. We look at the 1% and get worried about them taking over the world. We get worried about Obama taking over the country. We get worried about the drought. We get worried about the economy. We get worried about the world climate problems. We worry, right? I mean, if you follow the news. I'm not saying that each of you does, but we do that collectively. Personally, we worry about stuff. Not enough money, old age, and Alzheimer's and dementia, and how I'm going to, all that's going to happen with that. We worry about our job or our lack of job. We worry about our loneliness. We worry about our relationships. All that stuff. What is the imagery that we're creating in that? And what do you want to create instead? When I catch myself worrying, I start to ask myself the question, what would I like instead of that? What do I want to see instead of that? And then I start to put my attention on that. I'm going to invite you, if you're a worrier, don't stick your hand up, but if you are a worrier, not a warrior, but a worrier, or a warrior for worry, I invite you to lay down that weapon of worry and choose what is the image that I want to have instead. What do I want to focus on? Our beloved friend Genevieve Barron, to those of you who have taken Prosperity Plus 2, you've read her book, Your Invisible Power. She says, the exercise of the visualizing faculty keeps your mind in order and attracts to you the things you need to make life more enjoyable in an orderly way. Now, this orderly way, she's very big on this orderly process. Most of us will spend a few minutes visualizing something we want, praying for something we want, speaking the word for something we want, holding that in mind. Okay? And then we'll spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe even 25 minutes, and then spend the rest of the day doing what? Worrying about the opposite. Many of us will do that. What she says is that's like having a slide projector and you're putting in the slide of what you want and then taking that out and putting in the slide of what you don't want. And you're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and the mind doesn't know what to create because you're not consistent. We're not consistent. And so having an orderly practice of, I'm going to choose this image and I'm going to stay with this image until it manifests, until it precipitates out from consciousness into form. So we have an orderly process. We do the consistent work that we need to do. My favorite, as some of you know, my favorite quote from Raymond Charles Barker from the very wonderful book, The Power of Decision. Great book, it's in the bookstore. In my years of counseling, I have found that only those who really want what they want enough to decide that they shall have it will get what they want. Only those who want what they want enough to decide that they shall have it will get what they want. Notice that? The others mutter at me that great statement, with God all things are possible. They expect me to agree, which I do. But their concept of this statement is that it will be done unto them without any effort on their part. My favorite sentence out of this whole thing. They expect their half thinking to be rewarded by a whole result. This is a spiritual and mental impossibility. Those who have actually decided to have what they want do not expect special favors from the universe. They are ready and willing to think what they want long enough to get what they want. They are not afraid of the good, solid mental work of believing. They know there are no miracles. I know some of you like miracles, but what he means by that is a miracle is in his term, something that works outside of the lines of the way the universe works. The universe just works consistently the same way all the time. What looks like miracles is just simply we're allowing it and we're open enough to allow it to happen quickly in our lives. Okay? And then we call that a miracle. But it's not. It's just simply the universe is still working in alignment with it. We just happen to have a really nice opening for it at the moment. Last week I talked about the spring of life, and we happen to have an opening where that could pop out. And just like they call the springs, miracles, oh, it's St. Bridget's spring, she caused it to rise up through the ground. No, she didn't. It was there all the time. So it's not a miracle. So what are the images that I can see that I do want? And am I willing to do the good, solid mental practice of staying with that image and staying with that idea of what I want when all the worry and all the chatter voices come up and say, thank you very much for sharing, I no longer choose to listen to you. Okay? I want to add one final thing to this from Emma Curtis Hopkins. And she again is talking about words that cure. She says people use words, they use herbs, they use processes. She's writing this in 1888. But she says, if words do not cure unless we have faith in them, and God calls, if words do not cure unless we have faith in them, faith is the curative principle, and words are nothing. When you have an image, when you have a word, when you have an idea, do you actually have faith in that idea? Do you actually believe it's going to happen? See, I can have a wonderful image of myself cruising along in a Ferrari. I can feel the supple leather. I can have the top down, the wind blowing through my hair, hear the hum of the engine, have Cynthia sitting beside me enjoying it. I said something different in the first service. Don't pay attention to that one. I'm in so much trouble. She says there's such a thing as an edit button in the brain, but I seem to be lacking it. So anyways, I'll image that. But you can image that. You can image yourself doing that. You can image yourself in this wonderful new house. We were in the Rizzi Ranch yesterday, which is, if you've never been there, is a beautiful place on a beautiful piece of property with a fabulous view, and it's just like, I can image myself in there. But do I actually believe right now that I can go out and buy a Ferrari? And the answer is no, I don't. And so I can image myself in that. Now I might say, okay, I'm going to continue to image myself in that until it happens, or I might say, you know what, I need to step down to an area where I can have faith and I can believe. Maybe I'll settle for something a little bit smaller for right now as a stepping stone to where I want to go. Or maybe there's something else that duplicates that feeling for me, but doesn't cost $250,000. Okay? So I start to look at that and say, what is it I really want? Can I hold that image, and can I have faith in that image? Can I actually believe it? Now, we can build faith. We can consciously build faith. One of my favorite ways of doing that is to first off think about, what is the universe like? The universe is in a conspiracy for my good and your good, all of our good, because there's only one life, right? There's only one. If it was not in a conspiracy for our good, it would be against itself and it would tear itself apart. Think of yourself as, I hate part of my body, so I'm going to try and destroy that part of my body. Is that really helpful for you? Okay? So the universe is not going to destroy itself. It's in a conspiracy for its own good. We just are along for the ride because we're expressions of the universe. So we get to play in this good. Isn't that good? Okay, that's the good news. So if I start to recognize that, if I start to reason this out and recognize that, as a kid, I used to believe there was a God up there that sometimes would pull the rug out from under me, okay, swat me down, whatever. When I finally got over that, my life changed a lot because I didn't believe that anymore. And I wasn't then recreating that result. And so some of us got raised with the idea of a punitive God, right? Anybody besides me? God's going to punish you, God's going to get you, God, whatever, all that stuff. Or God, wants you to suffer to prove that you're good enough for him. Okay? All that garbage? Okay? What we start to remember is that there's only one life. That life is good and it's only good. It's a good that's beyond the idea of good and bad. It is just simply good. It is for life, it is for itself, and therefore it is for you because you are part of that. So when I start to recognize that is my truth, I can start to build faith in, okay, so if what I'm choosing from my heart, from my highest consciousness, is this imagery, this idea of what it is that I want to experience in life. I want to experience joy. I want to experience happiness. I want to experience health and vibrational aliveness. I want to experience enough money to be able to create and be who I want to be in this world and to be comfortable in this world. I want to have all of that in my life. I want to have loving relationships. I want to have wisdom to know how to be present here. Those are all good things. Can I assume that in my life? Can I start to have faith that that is my life? Can I start to make that my steady diet of my imagery? And so that's the challenge we each face. Will we make that? Because there's so many little pulls out here. Have you noticed there's so many little pulls? We were in a meeting for the endowment committee the other night, and we have a new endowment fund manager, and the guy came in and sat down, and we were talking about the economy of the world and the country, and he said, if you stop reading a newspaper and stop listening to the TV, business is actually good in the country, and has been for the last 7 years. It's good. He said it's not booming, it's not on fire, he says, which is actually a really good thing, because booming business doesn't sustain itself. He compared it to a rocket ship which goes up and burns out and comes down, or an airplane which has wings on it and can sustain itself for a long time up in the air. Business is good. Now, that's not what most of us get fed on the news, depending on what news you're listening to, right? It's the same thing with life. Life is good. There's people out there who want to convince us otherwise because it sells newspapers, it sells news, it keeps us all stirred up and scared and all that stuff and more excited. And then sometimes if we don't have enough, we go watch scary movies to add to that, right? But that's not the capital T truth. And so am I willing to move into alignment with the capital T truth? We can take all the beautiful images we want and look at them and imagine them, but we have to have faith in them. Doubt, which is the opposite of faith, is simply a belief in evil, which is basically life backwards. It's a belief in lack of good. It's a belief in lack of connection with God. And what I'm going to invite you to do is, if that's living anywhere within you, to let go of the belief that you're not connected to the one infinite power and the one infinite presence. Are you willing to do that? To let go of any place within you. Because when you start to do that, then you can take your faith and direct it in the direction you want to go. I always say we always have all the faith we want. We always have all the faith we're ever going to have right now. But sometimes I'm having about 20% faith in that direction that I want to go, and about 80% faith in the fact that I'm not going to get there. Guess what's going to happen? I might get there, but it's like driving down the road with a parking brake on, right? Okay, or one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. As I start to get clear that there's nothing holding me back, all I'm doing is having my foot on the gas pedal and driving down the road. And that's where life starts looking like miracles are happening, but it just means we're in total alignment with the universe and how it works. So your homework this week. Ready for some homework? Number one, listen carefully to your words this week. Listen carefully to your words. And in fact, if you want to work with a practitioner to support you in that, are you speaking what you truly want? Just notice your words. Am I speaking what it is that I truly want? Number two, I love the kids program because kids, the parents in here, don't your kids every once in a while sit there and go, Mommy, is that really what you want? You ever have them question you? Okay? Because we teach them that stuff over there. We teach them in a much simpler fashion, and they start to get it. And if you have this little built-in practitioner running around the house saying, Mommy, are you sure? Daddy, are you sure? Just number two, pay attention to your imaging. Pay attention to what you're thinking and the images you're holding. Again, are they taking you where you want to go? And if not, change them. It's easy to change the image. It's challenging to keep a change, but start by the process of changing it. And every time you find yourself having fallen off that process, change it back again. If you fall off, change it back again. An airplane on its way from here to Hawaii is off course most of the time. The pilot's just correcting it back, on course, and it finally lands there. Change it. And number three, generate faith in and the faith of God. You can be gentle with yourself in that process. Building faith is like building muscle. You don't walk into the gym for the first time and try and go lift 500 pounds. It'll probably hurt. Okay? But you do start gently, and you start to build faith. You start to say, wait, look, there's the universe showing up. There's the universe showing up. There's the universe showing up in my favor. You start to remember there's only one life, and it is for me. So let's say that together. There is only one life, and it is a conspiracy for my good. Take that in and breathe it in. So that's your homework this week. Listening to your words, watching your imagery and thoughts, and practice generating faith in the direction you want to go. Are you willing to do that? Yes. Cool. I'm going to close with a quote from Ernest. A double-minded man gets nowhere. Double-minded is what I just described of where I want to go that way and I want to go that way simultaneously. Okay? A double-minded man gets nowhere. How true this is. God can give us only what we can take. And since the taking is a mental act, we can take only what we believe we already have. Now I'm reading that to you. I want to step aside for a moment. How many of you have seen the textbook and kind of at least read a little bit of it and you've seen the printed? You know that every once in a while Ernest puts things in all caps? Okay? I want to read you the all caps part. It's sort of like he wants you to pay attention. That's how I interpret it. When somebody's texting you or emailing you and they have it all in caps, it's like they're yelling at you, right? Okay? So he's yelling something at us here, and here's how it goes. God can give us only what we can take. We can take only what we believe we already have. Exclamation point. We have to be aware that we already have it. So if all the good is always available in the universe, guess what? It's already here. We already have it. We haven't consciously manifested it into our body or into our life, but it's there. It's already present. Breathe that in. It's already present. Think of any good you want. It's already present. You, being operative extensions of the divine, already have this. This is what Jesus meant when he said, to those that have more shall be given, and to those who have not, even that which they have will be taken away. It's a consciousness thing. Do I believe in my consciousness that I already have it? That's that faith. If I choose to have a healthy body, I have to recognize there's a part of me that has never been touched by disease. There's a part of me that has never been touched by aging. There's a part of me that is in the absolute health of God, that is the perfect health, perfect life energy of God. I already have that. Breathe that in. There's a part of me that is already the opulent abundance of God. There's a part of me that is already the love and loved of God. There's nothing of me that's isolated. There's a part of me that is already, wherever Sherry is, the creative wisdom of the divine. All I have to do is open up and recognize that which is already present. So that's all we're doing here. We're recognizing that which is already present. So that's what he says, is we have to already have it. We can take only what we believe we already have. When we pray, we must believe we already have the answer to our prayer. Anything that is not of faith is a sin or a mistake. Faith in God and in ourselves should be consciously generated. All trouble comes from the disbelief in the universe, followed by wrong acts. So this week, I invite you to recognize, first of all, that you already have all the good you want. It's already present in the universe, given to you. Will you accept it? And the way that you accept it is with those empowering words, empowering thoughts, and empowering images. So play with that this week. See what you can generate. See what you can manifest. See what shows up. That's your assignment. Is that good? Yes. Yeah, I think it's a fun assignment. How much good can I stand this week? How much good can I generate this week? All right? Great. Let's pray. So I know that there is that life and only one life. There is that good and only good. There is that abundance. There is that love. There is that health, that vibrant life energy. There is that and only that. There is nothing else. There is joy and bliss, and only joy and bliss. Nothing is in the way. There is no withhold in the universe. God is simply expressing and giving itself out freely. That is the nature of the divine. And because that life is the only life there is, I know that each person here, each person in the sound of my voice, is already one of the infinite presence of God, already one of that life, one of the love, one of the joy, one of the abundant opulence, one of the health and vibrational aliveness. Each of us already is this. We already are this. And so I speak my word that we get it. That we get it more deeply and more fully than we ever have. That all that nonsense and stuff that has filled our consciousness in the past and our unconsciousness in the past falls away, never to come back again. That we open up instead to the fruit of the tree of the divine, the fruit of the tree of love, the fruit of the tree of health, of wisdom, of creativity, of abundance, of great good. We open to that. We allow ourselves to let that manifest in our lives so we can play with it tangibly in this wonderful human body and human place that we live in. We know that for ourselves individually. We know that for the world collectively. We open to this good. We do the mental work of staying with that until it manifests. And so for all this good, and for each person who does that work, and for each person who says yes to this divine expression, I'm so grateful. So very grateful, because all we are doing is manifesting heaven as earth. We're letting that happen. And so that blesses us, and it blesses way beyond us. We receive this good. We receive this good. And so I release this word, this image, this prayer into the divine, into the law that knows exactly how to bring it into form and manifestation in each of our lives in the most beautiful, perfect, and wonderful ways. And it does. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you.
To love, serve.